Finally, the stress from planning the big day was gone. Now don't get me wrong, I'll never forget how supported and encouraged I felt seeing all of our family and friends gathered together in one place. But man, was I glad when that day was over. We were finally able to get away and enjoy some quality time alone. First in a log cabin in the mountains of Tennessee, and then floating aboard a large vessel about the size of the Titanic in the Caribbean Sea. When we arrived back in town 2 weeks later, the most stressful thing on my mind was how I was going to personalize the wording on the 200 thank you cards I needed to write. What was I supposed to say to the person who gave us the 10th crockpot? Thank you for the crockpot. It'll fit in well with the other 9 we already received. A couple weeks later, I began my first job with Turner Construction as a field engineer. Now, don't let the title fool you. I was nothing more than the low man on the totem pole of the 50-man construction management team on the new Ohio State Medical Center. Meanwhile, Amy went back to her job as a project engineer at Marathon Petroleum, where she'd already been working for a year. Really, how else would we have been able to afford a wedding? For the first few months, it was pretty much all butterflies and roses. Our weekdays were pretty much all the same. We drove an hour in opposite directions to work, worked between 8 and 10 hours a day, drove an hour home, ate dinner, spent some time together, went to sleep, and did it all over again. Our weekends were packed full of wedding hopping. We went to a lot of weddings that summer. It was great just to show up with a $50 gift, eat some amazing food, and then go home. But the best part of being married was that we were finally able to come home to one another every evening. I don't know exactly when the switch flipped. Maybe it was like a slow fade. But a few months after being married, our relationship didn't seem so much like butterflies and roses anymore. Our conversations became centered on our work days. Due to our rigorous schedules, we were becoming more and more exhausted. We went back to our old habits of being easily irritated with one another. What was wrong with our marriage? It wasn't turning out to be much like the fairy tales where Prince Charming comes riding in on a white horse and sweeps the beautiful princess off her feet and then rides off into the sunset where they live happily ever after. Did Prince Charming and the beautiful princess have jobs like us? Did they become exhausted like us? Did they get irritated with one another like us? I don't know. The movies Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, and Cinderella, well, they all end the same. They all end where the prince sweeps the princess off her feet and they ride off into the sunset. As observers, we're left without a clear picture of what exactly happens on the other side of the sunset. To one degree or another, I think all of us pictured our lives to look more like the fairy tale Disney movies than like what we've actually experienced. We thought riding off into the sunset meant bliss for the rest of our lives, only to find out that there were fiercer dragons out there than the one that Prince Charming slayed in order to rescue his princess. Some of you thought you would have already ridden off into the sunset a long time ago, but you're still waiting for Prince Charming to come along and sweep you off your feet. Whatever your situation, I'm like 99.999 to the infinity % sure your marriage, or the lack thereof, has turned out differently than what you thought it would be. First, I just want to say that I'm sorry it didn't work out like you thought it would. I'm sure you've experienced a lot of pain and frustration like us, which you wish you wouldn't have had to experience. I wish there was something I could do so that none of us would have to experience this pain. Now, I don't profess to be an expert on how to have a successful marriage, nor would I claim that our marriage is perfect. But Amy and I have learned a few things, both during the first 7 years of our marriage and from counseling other married couples, which have helped us to have a great, loving relationship with one another. So over the course of the next 5 weeks, I'll be sharing 5 of these strategies with you, in hopes that you may be able to apply one or more of them to your marriage. Now before I wrap up, I need to make a couple clarifications. First, even the best application of our strategies isn't going to take away all the pain. We still experience pain in our marriage, even though we've applied these strategies. Because you're a human being who's married to another human being, the hard reality is that you're going to hurt one another, whether you intend to do it or not. Our strategies aren't going to take away all that pain, but I hope that successful application of our strategies will enable you to experience a deeper, more intimate relationship with your spouse. My other clarification is that our strategies don't come in a template apply to all format. Although I'll be sharing stories of how we've applied these strategies in our marriage, that doesn't mean the exact same application of these strategies in your marriage is going to give you the same results. Every person is different, meaning that every marriage is different. What I hope you'll get out of the strategies I share is a basic principle which you can then figure out how to apply in a way that's going to work for you and your spouse. I'm excited to go on this journey with you as we take a look at a few of the struggles many of us have and are currently facing in our marriages and attempt to develop some strategies to lessen the struggles. The fifth strategy, which I'll be presenting next week, is this: make decisions together. I look forward to connecting with you again next week.